Everyone. Good evening once again, and you're welcome to another of our LinkedIn live streams. And today with us, we have a very, very, very special guest, Amy Dexter. Um, Amy Dexter, how do I introduce Amy Dexter? I know Amy wears a lot of hats. She's highly educated, and I feel I don't do enough justice trying to introduce her. So I'm just going to let Amy introduce herself. Uh, Amy.
So my name is Amy Dexter. I am currently a project coordinator at Stoll Reeves law firm. I work in the IT department there. Um, and I used to be a tenured professor. So I was a professor for 10 years. Um, and got tenure and left that profession and started in project management. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. I know Amy. That sounds like a very, very fat portfolio. I mean, a tenured professor. That's a big deal. That definitely is a big deal. I know you're also a writer, editor, right?
Mhm.
Right. You want to mention that she was trying to be humble with us, but all
I've
right.
published a couple things. Yeah. It goes
Yeah.
along with the professor thing.
All right. Okay. Okay. If you say so. Well, you're trying to be humble with us, right? All right, so today I know we're talking about harnessing the power of transition to
Mhm.
becoming a project manager. So I'd like to ask Amy to give us a brief run through of her background, I mean, what she was doing in the past and how she's transitioned to the position she is right now. Amy?
Yeah. So I had been working in uh, as a professor of psychology for 8 years in Chicago. I mostly was teaching child development, but also cultural psychology, and a little was starting into talking about resilience and ways of coping, right? And I parents start getting older, needed to move, and that's not always something that's so easy to do as a professor. Those jobs are fewer and farther between, and hard to get. So looked out here on the West Coast where my family is. Looked out here on the West Coast for several years, and eventually um, just made the jump and moved, and didn't have a job as a tenured professor. Taught a little bit at Cal State San Marcos. That was lovely. But realized that I wasn't getting anywhere. And I also was starting to burn out, even before COVID hit. When COVID hit, I don't know, this is probably the story of a lot of different people, not just me, but everybody seemed more stressed. So you're working with people who are stressed, your students are more stressed, your clients are more stressed, there are fewer resources. And I ended up feeling like I couldn't be my best me and serving them. So my students were getting less than they needed, and I was just so tired. And I thought there's got to be a better way, that I can not end up grumpy and tired and sad at the end of the day. I felt stuck, and so I met with a lovely career coach, um, and named Jen Hamilton, and she's not doing that line of work anymore. But she helped me to understand that there were other options, right? And that is kind of what I'm hoping. Talking with you today, we can help anybody else who's feeling stuck. Right? There are other things to do, and project management is a lovely um, place for anybody who has done any kind of organization, any projects. Everything's a project, right?
Everything's a project.
And if you get along with people, if you enjoy helping other people do their best work, man, project management, it's where it's at. So, yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I really connect with you when you said you were getting burnt out, and I'm so happy you spoke to someone and this
Mhm.
person just made you realize that there's always an option. Project management, anything. For everyone, it doesn't necessarily have to be project management. It could be, something very different. But the fact
Mhm.
that the moment, I think the first big step is realizing that you are not getting what you want to get out of that place you are, and then that
Yeah.
decision to move out of your comfort zone and find that place of happiness, I think is the biggest and most important step. And I'd say big congratulations to you for taking that step. And look at you today, all happy and
Oh,
stuff.
thanks.
All right.
Well, people work best when they're happy, right? And you don't get to. I mean, even working age, even younger folks, you've got skills. You just got to be able to articulate what those skills are and figure out where to apply them in a way that is serving both you and the people you're working with, right? Um, there's no need for stuck. No one's served by that. We're all doing better if we're working in our kind of our happier, feeling fulfilled space.
Sounds about right. I was going to ask it earlier, what made you want to do and to change, but I think you already answered that question. So I think next question is, so soon as you realized you were not getting what you wanted out of your previous career, how did that transition start and how did it go? What was your experience?
So I first started studying for the PMP. And I was reading the PMBOK, looking into that, and I mentioned to a friend, "Oh yeah, I'm studying the PMBOK, and I'm looking at becoming a project manager." Um, and my friend's like, "Oh, you should check in with this friend of mine who teaches folks how to be Scrum Masters. You should talk to Chris Sims. He works at Agile Learning Labs." So I got my certification as a Scrum Master. And then I got involved with some networks, and I learned, oh, okay, there are more people doing project management in a more PMBOK way, but also in agile spaces. And there are folks in San Diego, and I hooked up with Agile Lean Coffee, and got a great mentor, Zach Bonacker, there. And he introduced me to yet another mentor, Steve Milligan. And he gave me the opportunity to do one of the first volunteer um, uh, agile coach kind of positions that I had. So I got to try out all the stuff that I had learned from Chris Sims. So getting it was kind of like a path of I was going out there networking, making friends, and listening to any opportunities that would come up. Hey, you want to try this? Sure, let me see if I can figure out how to work that into my schedule. Hey, what about this might be good for you? Okay, let me try it out. Right? So just kind of staying open-minded, staying curious about what the options are.
Awesome. Awesome. Speaking about options, I had this
Yeah.
question, but and I see someone from one of our audiences is also interested in this question. But before we jump on that question from the audience, I wanted to ask you. So, okay, so I just like someone's also commented when we made the post about this your background, and
Hmm.
so I think one person was really fascinated. I was fascinated as well that you were a professor, a tenured professor. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a very different field entirely. And then now turn IT project manager. how did you narrow it down from being a professor to going, okay, maybe I want, I know there are so many options out there. How did you narrow it down to project management?
So I um I think one of the issues, particularly with academia, and with those of us who've worked in as professors, is that, and this may be in other lines of work as well, that people don't talk to you about what else you can do with those skills, right? What are you good at? Well, I'm good at being a professor. I'm a professor, right? And you don't think about what the other options are. So I think part of that was actually a long process of seeing what I was good at and what I enjoyed, right? You mentioned earlier, Henry, that on my resume I have that I was a writing coach. So I have published 13 things. I'm a co-author on 13 things and singular author on 3. And that's awesome. But um, is that what you want to spend all of your day every day doing? And what does that look like um, in terms of a economic stream? Right. I was a writing coach, and it didn't pay as well as I'd like, and often the audience for who the person was writing for, I was not in touch with or in control of. So trying to imagine what the goals were, right? What does the end product need to look like? I'd get it from my client, and sometimes that was, felt like playing telephone, but is this really what your boss needs from you, right? So there's lots of different layers in that, and what I did basically there was I tried out a bunch. I was a writing coach. I looked into data analysis, right? I'd done lots of research projects. I've worked with big data for psychology projects. Um, and I'm an extrovert. I like people. The data analysis took me away from people and kept me with numbers a
Definitely.
little bit too long. But I think that's part of it, right? You have to keep going at it, right? And noticing, oh, okay, this worked out really well. Oh, okay, I'm getting really good feedback over here. Oh, okay, this seems to be something that's marketable, that I enjoy doing. This is marketable and I don't enjoy doing, right?
Right.
So being curious and kind of experimenting as you go along.
I see. See, so it was more like, just try and see what works for you, right?
Hmm.
It's more like an experiment. And I keep, it's one of the things I've enjoyed about working with PMI San Diego
Hmm.
too. I know when I joined, I was a little bit, on the line about, ooh, I don't want to make any mistakes. Ooh, I don't want to do that. Well, talking with Leona and the rest of the team, it makes you, more relaxed. You understand that, okay, so yes, I understand, like yeah, we're all professionals in what we do, but at the same time, there's always room to try new things, experiment. If it doesn't give you the results you are looking for, oh well and good. We know that that didn't work, or we know that we want to tweak this in a way next time, so maybe you get the results we want. So that experiment trial period, the moment you're not going to be scrutinized for making mistakes, or mistakes are not the end of the line, I think it just sets you free, in a different level, to just go explore and find that thing that really works for you. And
Well, and you only get one chance to do this life, right?
I mean, you
Might
only
as
need
well try
one.
some stuff out.
Yeah,
Figure out what works for you.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. And I know Chakri in the audience is supporting what you're saying. He said you never gave up. That's the key. That's the key. Great takeaway for those that are on the fence with similar challenges. Also, now let's jump back to that question.
Mhm.
And that is, how did you get into IT project management? I find that most positions want you to have some experience in IT. For
Mm.
example, coding, DevOps, and infrastructure. So, how did that happen for you?
Right. Good eye, Leslie. I don't have a background in coding, DevOps, or infrastructure. So what I did was to seek out the spaces where people were doing networking that was both project management, which I was starting to gain a background in, and IT, right? And a couple I got a couple volunteer positions. I was lucky to work with Steve Milligan and Agilis, and was supporting a Tiny ML team. We worked together to come up with a device that for a competition that would take AI and measure how far away a car is behind you. So it was a little thing that would go on the back of your bike and a little wristband, right? And if the cars get too close, it would vibrate your wristband. So you as a biker would know, be careful, there's somebody coming up on you. And working with a small team as their agile coach, right, helping them through the process of putting this project together, I learned a little bit about coding, and so I could talk a little bit about. And I would argue, and I have argued this uh, with several groups, that I think in some cases it is better not to know as much IT. You just need to know how to call people on their BS when they're putting it out there, right? I don't need to be able to code. I just need to know that task that you told me you were doing last week took 5 minutes, and now you're telling me that the same task that has the same parameters is going to take you 5 hours. What's the deal? Right? So as long as you are conversant, right? It doesn't often get in the way. And as a matter of fact, sometimes it's helpful for me to be able to say, okay, wait, novice in the room, tell me why we're doing this again, right? Because otherwise we can dive so deep that it's hard to be able to be like, okay, wait, why did we start trying to do this, right? I hope it's a good grounding, right? To be able to bring people back to why, what's our task? What are we doing? What's the end user experience going to be from this?
True, true, very, very true. That definitely. And I know Leslie is responding to your answer, and she's saying that's a great story. Love it. Also,
Oh,
yeah, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
was going to say also, I got to work with David Botnia and the Silicon Valley project management team, and
Right.
I got to do a little bit of development there. So that group is another. They use Scrum, and they're agile. A bunch of agile practitioners putting together a community online, and so I got to learn while working with them, and also an IT, online uh, content development space. So that was also helpful to have on the resume.
Awesome. And I know David is right there on the screen saying being agile is to redefine who we are and how we can help our organization and community at large. Right there. Perfectly said. And yeah, we have Robin also just agreeing with what Chakri said earlier. So let's move on to our audience. We appreciate your questions, your contributions. Feel free to just keep on engaging us in those chat sections there, and the comment section right there. We'll see your questions, we'll see your ideas. We'll definitely respond to that. So, Amy, I know it's been a big transition for you um, from being a tenured professor to IT project manager. Um, you've told your story, and it's been an amazing story. But if you were to share with the audience, what are your three biggest takeaways from that journey you've gone through? What would those be?
So I've been thinking a lot about this because I'm trying to put together a coaching curriculum so that I can help other people who are in that stuck space, right? Like what I talked about. Um, but Alana actually helped me a lot by saying, break it down to three things. What are your three things? I thought that was helpful. So my three things. The first thing I would say to somebody who's looking to um, to make a transition like this or looking for a career change is to stay curious. And you may have noticed that in my story, that it was let me try out a bunch of different things and reflect on how this is working for me, right? What feels successful, what feels good, what parts do I really don't want to do more of that, I really want to do more of this, what's being successful. um, Also stay curious is a good kind of idea when you're trying to network, right? I know some people walk into network events and they're like, okay, so this guy is the head of this, and this woman runs this. She's CEO of this, and right, looking for certain folks to connect with. But you never know who and what is going to help you along your journey, right? Some of the best things that happened have happened to me along this transition were accidents. So keep some curiosity, some open mind about like, hey, who knows what's going to come of this? Let's try it out, right? Okay, so my second thing, and you've heard me talk a bunch of about this. I've been really, really blessed to have some amazing mentors, um, and so recruit yourself some mentors. Um, it is amazing how often, if you show interest in people and what they're doing, the ideas that they're talking about, how often those folks will be like, "Yeah, I'll talk with you more about that. Sure, we can set a time next week." Right? There's a lot of people been really generous with their time, and I think that those mentors, um, hey, is this a good way to go? What do you think about pitching this way? What do you think about this way of framing my experience? Right? Just somebody to sounding board of somebody who's been in the field longer. Um, that's huge. So recruit mentors. And then the last thing, the third thing I would say, if for somebody looking at career change, is really identify those transferable skills. And that kind of goes back to all those other things, right? Curious, so you can be noticing what you're good at, right? And that helps with those skills. Mentors who can help you to identify those transferable skills. I also got a bunch of help from Teresa Quinlan, who teaches, coaches people on emotional or EQ, right? And so being able to reflect and on, okay, this is what is feeding me. This is what I'm good at. This is what I can bring to the table. And being able to articulate that when you get into those interviews, even when you get into those networking things, right? Hey, how you doing? My name is Amy Dexter. I know how to read a room. I can talk to you and tell you who we need to spend a little extra time getting engaged on a project. I also tend to build rapport real quick. Folks know that they can trust me and that I'm going to be honest with them really quick. And that's kind of some of the stuff, right, that I bring to the table. But it's good to have that right off the top. What is it you bring? So those, stay curious, recruit mentors, and identify those transferable skills.
Definitely well said. Definitely well said. Well said, like a pro, huh? So,
Thank you.
like, definitely, like, I like all of this resonates personally to me because I feel with all of these three, I mean, the sky is only the starting point.
Mhm.
It's just wonderful. And before I'll get, I'm going to come back before we end this to ask you if there's anything you'd like to share with the audiences before we leave. But let me get to some of this comment section real quick.
Mhm.
and I'll come back to you for an
Yep.
answer to that. I know it was, let me see who that person was. Wajid was asking if this was going to be recorded so he could watch it later on. Definitely, definitely, definitely. This is being recorded and it's going to be on the LinkedIn page. You can check it there in the videos or on our PMI San Diego chapter YouTube page. This is also live streaming there and would also be recorded. And for Robert, Robert is saying he's interested in volunteering. Definitely,
Mhm.
we'll reach out to you, Robert. I see Leona is already reaching out there. But if there's any other person also watching, looking to volunteer, PMI San Diego, PMI other chapters, definitely reach out to Leona. You could reach out to me, to Amy. She'll point you in the right direction. I'll point you in the right direction. Leona is the main person to talk to, however, but you could always feel free to reach out to any of us. And yeah, definitely. Don't be shy. We take you as you are. We'd walk with you. We believe there's something that could be learned from each individual, and each individual comes with its own special value. So definitely reach out. Don't think you're, oh no, you're not qualified enough, bro. You're definitely qualified. Just reach out. It's the first step, most important step. All depends on you. And I see David again. I think Amy, you really have a lot of fans. I mean, it's just people singing your praises in the comment section. I'm kind of jealous myself.
Like I said, good mentors. I got a good community. I'm lucky.
Okay, definitely. And I see one very important question I'd like us to touch before we
Hmm.
round up for today. And Etsu Girl is asking, is also a very, very great individual. He was supposed to be on our live stream last time, but man, this man has a lot of value to add. Definitely. There's one person to talk to. So he's asking, can you elaborate more on how to build trust of others for you?
I think they're one of the ways that is a great question. It's a hard one. Um, I think one of the ways that I build trust for folks is by trying to be honest with them, to stand up for what I've said. Right? If I say I'm going to get you something tomorrow, I try to get you something tomorrow. Right? The other thing is, and there's a balance here. So this is not a simple thing, but being a little vulnerable, right? Um, I think in a lot of spaces, as I was getting into project management, into Agile, um, I was probably asking the real simple, not so sophisticated questions. And I knew that. But part of it was to be able to say, hey, I'm new here. I don't know how you guys do this. This is really interesting. Can you explain why the sky is blue? Right? And it's uh it allows other people to be vulnerable and to trust you because you were brave enough to be like, why do we do it that way? And a bunch of other people probably thought had that same question, right? So I think some of it's little bits, careful vulnerability, right? But also following through with what you've said. So there's a mix there. I hope that helps.
I hope that answered the question as well. And I see a PMI San Francisco chapter, giving us a big shout out. We'll give you a big shout
Yeah.
out. We all work together. And so, Amy,
Hmm.
what would you like to leave our audiences with before we call it a day for today?
Right. Um, if you, I think the main thing that helped me to make this transition, right, was just reaching out to folks, right? If you need help, ask. It, it goes with that whole seeking mentors, right? If you want support, getting a job, putting together that resume, figuring out what to do with this LinkedIn space, um, reach out. And that's we got all these wonderful PMI chapters. I'm here. You create a community.
You know, as simple as that might seem, just reach out. I know it comes a little bit difficult for a lot of people, but there you have it, everyone. Just reach out. Take that first step, and trust me, we'll catch you. We'll help you all the way to get to that destination you want to get. I know that you're getting a big thank you for answering the question. I guess is really satisfied with the answer you got. So beautiful audiences, wonderful, wonderful. Amy, thank you all very much for hanging with us today. It's been very, very, very inspiring. And personally, this I feel it connects to me right there, right there. So it's just reach out. Don't I know the thing is what people was this imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people deal with that. They
Mhm.
feel, no, I can't. Trust me, you can. Just take that step and you're good to go. That's the beginning of that journey. You wouldn't regret it. So thank you all very much. Let's see, I have people pouring into the comment section. Let me show them real quick. Let me give them that airtime before we leave. But on today, yeah, definitely, definitely. We're all superstars here, right?
Mhm.
All right. So good night. Ooh, all the way from the East Coast. Amy, you're really popular. I'm really jealous right now. All right. So, Amy, thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate you. For all those that have tuned in, joined us in the comment section. We appreciate you as well. We hope that one way or the other, what Amy has shared with us today helps you to get to that point you really want to get to. So, please, please, please watch out for our next live streams coming in about 2 weeks, and we hope to catch you again then. Have a good one
All
now.
right.
Bye.
Good night.